Some of the guys had written home to their parents, complained about how brutally difficult this training was. We had an officer show up. He said, you just don't bother to complain anymore because we don't give a damn if we kill all of you. You're all going to die anyway. Wow, what a morale builder that was. I'm William L. Casaza, born in 1925, raised in the Depression and graduated into the war. The payroll for most of my city, that's Fitchburg, Massachusetts, disappeared literally overnight, and that were the paper mills. It was very difficult. There wasn't enough money, it's as simple as that, but it's not very simple unless you've experienced it. You can't believe what it's like when there just isn't any money. Despite the many negatives of that condition, I have a look back at a happy childhood. As time went by, of course, we got involved in the war. We got involved in the war little by little, first in production for wartime products that were necessary and needed. A lot of people did not want to get in the Second World War. Roosevelt wanted us to get in the war because he had decided that we should support the British. But a lot of people said, we did that 20 years ago, and we just as soon sit this one out. But then one day, God granted Roosevelt a great gift in the form of Pearl Harbor. One very nice Sunday afternoon, I was working and had the radio on. All of a sudden, there was an interruption of the music. Reported that Pearl Harbor had been attacked by Japanese forces. All of a sudden, there was no question, we're in this war. And then God granted Roosevelt another gift. 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, Hitler declared war on us. Next day at school, we heard the famous broadcast of Roosevelt. And so there was no question about what was going to happen to us. We knew that just a matter of 2 or 3 years we'd all be in the service. And so we lived accordingly. The Army had brought forth a new program, and it was called the ASTP program, which is the Army Specialized Training Program. Well, as a 17-year-old kid, I knew I didn't know anything about being a soldier. And I really didn't have any wish to kill anybody. I was 5'6" and 126 pounds. I didn't feel like a tiger, okay? Turns out a lot of guys just like me all over the country. I never saw the inside of a dormitory or a college classroom under the auspices of the Army. Any and all the guys who were in the ASTP program. And there were tens of thousands of young, mainly 18-year-olds with good grades. And they wound up in the infantry, where most of the casualties occur. We shipped out on September 4th. We landed near Cherbourg in France. Now, we were equipped with M18 tank destroyers called the Hellcat. The armor, however, was very, very thin. It was only 5/8 of an inch thick. So we were dependent, presumably this was designed to outmaneuver German armor, the duck and dodge and all that good stuff. Well, that's just swell if you're out in an open plain and you've got some place to do that. Unfortunately, our first combat experience was in the Siegfried Line. It was a belt of defensive positions that covered the length of the border of Germany between every other nation all the way down to the Swiss Alps. The maneuverability of the M18 did us little or no good. So we got punished. On the 16th of December, the Germans launched their great counterattack, known as later on as the Battle of the Bulge. The correct name for it is the Ardennes Offensive. So we were in the Ardennes campaign all but the first 2 days of it. One thing was clear, it was the largest land battle that the United States had ever been engaged in. The Germans and ourselves had tremendous losses. We were snowing and snowing and snowing, and guys would go down and you never saw them again. They would be snowed over and disappear, and the next day you were busy doing something else. They were probably quite alive when they went down. They were wounded. But in that cold, they died. That battle determined the war. On April 10th, 1945, my division, the 84th Infantry Division, attacked the city of Hanover. My platoon was in position in the morning of the 10th to attack across beautiful German farmland. But I noticed a fence line that were running, I won't say parallel, but maybe somewhat converging lines. When we got right up to them, that's when I smelled the smell. It was the worst smell I've ever smelled. I remember thinking of something horrible back there. Jeez, what can that be? And I remember thinking they must have abandoned the slaughterhouse. Well, in effect, that's really what they had done. We didn't hear anything about a concentration camp. We didn't know what the hell they were, really. We didn't know there were murder factories. And this one young man in the headquarters of the division was in charge of a small platoon that went in the concentration camps, and they saw what it was. Young man that was in charge of that group that went in there was a young German Jew American soldier. His name became famous when he became Secretary of State for the United States, Henry Kissinger. When we finally heard that they had signed off on a peace agreement of some kind, it was a great relief. Can't describe it. You're so happy to be alive. You've made it. You know, how the hell am I still here? And here I am, all in one piece. Not just laying in a hospital minus a leg or an eye or God knows what. Joy indescribable. It was a Saturday, and I got out of the Army, officially had my discharge papers, and I had made contact with the college, and they were happy to get me back in where I left off. And so Monday morning, I was there. Have you ever gone into a room that's been closed up for maybe a week or two, and you open the door and you walk in, it's got a musty smell, a stuffy feeling to it? It was all like that here. And I tried hard to be respectful and not to laugh in their faces about things that they took very seriously and so on. And it was difficult. I've never heard an honest man say he wasn't afraid, that he wasn't frightened. Never. I've heard some fools say it. How could you not be afraid? A guy gets splattered next to you, you're not going to get, what makes you bulletproof? Nothing does, except chance. I've been trying for the last 3 weeks or so to find the words that would do justice to summing up what we all feel for this place and for those fallen comrades who lie here and perhaps listen to us. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. Change hut. Present Hans. Order, Hans. Any and all the guys who were in the ASTP program, and there were tens of thousands of young, mainly 18-year-olds with good grades, and they wound up in the infantry, where where most of the casualties occur.